Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Guitar Souls podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Mike McLaughlin, and with me is my handsome friend here, Mr. Levi Clay. How's it going, bud?
I'm very confused, if I'm completely honest. Just as a gag there, I was like, why don't you start the show today? And there he is, remembering my spiel. And also highlighting that I have been reduced to a series of catchphrases. That is me now, just a
I am not a lawyer.
Fuck the Tories. Damn it, I said it. What's going
on? Just clip the mic like fucking everything.
That's fine, I'll sort that. So this is episode number 121, I believe.
I believe we are quite not far off that, at least.
Yeah, I am good. Well, it feels weird, so I'm just going to have to go with it. You asked me how I'm doing. It feels weird to lead with how I'm doing, but apparently that's the way we're doing things. I am good. I have just taken delivery of this beauty, my new book, Hybrid Picking Guitar Technique, and it's done well. So if anybody hasn't picked up a copy yet, please do go and pick up a copy of that. You'll notice Tom Quayle's hand on the cover. Apparently Tom Quayle didn't know his hand was going to be on the cover of that book. So,
I was going to say, like, that is the best Easter egg of the book.
I know.
Even for him?
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out that, like, that's not an endorsement from Tom. Like, Tom isn't involved in the product. The only way he's involved in is that we took a photo of his hand. Mm-hmm. It just seems that when Lee was taking photos of him, he didn't say this is for Levi's next book. So he wasn't annoyed, but Tom's so nice that if he was annoyed, he wouldn't say he was annoyed, type thing. But yeah, in future, I'll have to make sure that people do the obvious things when you're taking photos of someone. Tell them what it's for. Yeah. Lee, tell them what it's for. So that, and also this.
Nearly as good as his book. Nearly.
Oh, it's here.
That thing is something else.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very, very cool.
Absolutely. Like, Levi and I just had to spend a wee 10 minutes, him essentially watching me to see how much of a cunt I made of it.
You did really well, though.
It was alright,
Yeah, you did really well.
It was good fun.
Yeah, the thing I find with that is because it's tuned so oddly, if you're a musician, you'll do all right on it. Mm-hmm. Not immediately, but you'll be able to work out how to play music on it. And you did that. You were playing music on it quite quickly. And I found the same. I've been playing it for like 4 days now, and I've already got some things together that really sound like music.
Totally, man. I think that the fact that it is a bizarre tuning, but there's also wee elements of it where you're like, right, cool, so I can understand that this is going to be a shape here, and that corresponds with here.
Yeah.
That, like you say, you quickly build up your vocabulary on it.
Yeah. So
it's
super
cool,
excited. I'm going to be playing a bunch more of that. Check out my YouTube. Check out you're already on my YouTube, I would imagine. But check out my Instagram and all of that good stuff. I actually did you see this? I did a promoted post on Instagram.
Was this the one that cost you £5 per promotion?
Per click, yeah.
That's fucking bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, £5 per click. I was like, well, I'm happy with how this video has panned out, so I'll put 50 quid into marketing this thing. And then Instagram are like, what would you like to achieve from your advertising? And I'm like, more clicks on my profile. Because you've got 3 options. It's more clicks on your profile, more clicks to your website, or more, maybe it might have been likes on the video. But I just want people to come to my profile and follow my Instagram profile, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, yeah, let's go for that. 50 quid budget. And after a day, £10 on my budget was gone, and 2 people had clicked on my profile. I'm like, you motherfuckers you're ripping me off. You're just ripping me off. So absolute scumbags.
Heavy bumped.
So yeah, won't be doing that again. What else? I was sort of half on the show last week.
I was only here for a short period as well.
In the comment section, that's going to become a regular thing now because evidently Melissa, her residency is back on in Riding Rooms. Mm-hmm. But she starts playing at 11:15, so it shouldn't be that much of an issue. I should be able to catch all the show moving forward. So yeah, but that'd be fun. Basically, what I'm saying is I'm off to Riding Rooms again tonight, which made me realise, because I don't tend to go out to like pubs and things like that. It's not really my scene, my vibe. But I've been to Riding Room the last 2 weeks, so now we could go with my tagline could be Levi. If I was like a character in an RPG and I needed a short bio, Levi Clay frequents gay bars. That's me.
True. I would just say you're a queer baiter though.
Yeah. So that'll be me. If anyone wants to come and hang out in the Riding Rooms on a Monday, come and say hello. How are you?
I was going to say, it certainly sounds like you had a much better weekend than I did.
Yes.
I am still recovering from getting my second vaccine jab. I spent 4 days, and I'm still in the process of moving house.
Well, I'd just like to rewind on that one. Recovering from your vaccine jab. So have you joined Team Eric Clapton yet?
What was that again? Like, it doesn't matter if you're vaxxed or not, you can come to my gig?
It was the vaccine's bad because it almost stopped me from being able to play the guitar.
No.
Okay.
No.
Cool.
If anyone's going to stop me playing guitar, it's
walloper.
my laziness.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton is a walloper.
Yeah.
Absolute walloper. Anyway, I am all right, apart from, as I say, having been fucked physically from that. Spent about 4 days trying to humph everything from old house. Humph being like a Scottish word, basically meaning drag.
I like that you gave an explanation for that, but not walloper.
A walloper's a willy. A penis. Shall we? If we're going to go full on terms.
A meaty phallus.
Yes, an oaken fuck weapon. Like that.
Yeah. Moving house.
Yes, I moved house. And Martin in our band, and Partican in my band, unfortunately contracted COVID.
You've outed him. The official band page were deliberately not outing the band member.
Fuck it, it's Martin. He's not well.
How's he doing?
He's okay, man. He's still recovering, which is pretty shitty. But that then meant we couldn't play Bloodstock, which fucked our biggest gig of this year.
Possibly ever.
Potentially ever, aye.
Yeah.
And all the bands that we were choking to go and play alongside and see seem to have done an absolute fantastic job and got a ridiculous reception. So I'm chuffed for everybody that made it. Gutted for myself.
Yeah.
Instead of going and plenty thousands of people, I was lucky enough to
carry boxes.
Yeah. Humph Mine's, Nancy's and the wee man stuff from house to house and hate myself in the process.
And to make matters even worse, you're further away from me now. You know, one of the perks
negligently.
One of the perks of moving here was that you are, you know, a 2-minute walk from my house. And now you're like a 25-minute walk from my house.
Well, I mean, without getting too deep into it, that wasn't exactly my choice.
Sure.
You know,
so, all I'm saying is selfish bastard. So
that's me. selfish cunt.
That's me. I've got things to tell people. Like, you're a selfish bastard. Also, did you know? This show is brought to you by our friends over at Ormsby Guitars. We want to remind you guys that there is still time to get involved in the upcoming Run 16 guitars. Those include these incredible hypes available in 5 new colours. That Dragon Burst is absolutely stunning. You can also get your hands on one of the Metal X's, again available in a range of finishes. My personal pick has to be these headless V's, absolutely outrageously cool. Imagine one of those in an 8-string, I absolutely love these. And finally, the Ando San signature model, available in 6, 7 and 8-string availability. Go and check them out at Ormsby's website right now. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at Rev Amplification, a one-stop shop for all of your tonal needs. Head on over to their website to check out their range of lunchbox amplifiers, both the D20 and G20, 20-watt amplifiers with built-in 2-notes torpedo technology so you can record direct into your computer. If that doesn't suit, you can also check out one of their highly popular G2, 3 and 4 pedals, giving you that trademark Rev tone in a stomp box. Incredible tones, I use these myself. And finally, you may notice in the back of these videos a Rev Generator 120, an absolute masterclass in modern electric guitar tones. Check it out at their site now. So as always, a huge thanks to our friends and family over at Ormsby Guitars, Rev Amplification and Vinny over at VPix. Go and check those guys out. I need to chase Perry up, I think, and find out where or when these guitars that I want are showing up so I can get my hands on one. Because we'll be doing a bonus episode after this one, Buy Me a Coffee, of course. We're late on this one, so really you'll get 2 of these in the next coming weeks. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be listening to, kind of like a listening party stream. We're going to do Metallica's Master of Puppets. We're going to listen to the whole thing, talk through it while it's on, talk about what's cool about it, what's not so cool about it, our memories of it. I've not listened to it in probably 10 years. And Mike is going to have a guitar on hand and he's going to be playing as much of it that he can remember on the fly. He's really good at stuff like that, so I would be very surprised if it's not just a stream of Mike playing the album from start to finish.
I can't think that I will know every riff, but there are certainly ones where I'm going to hear it, I'm going to be like, fuck, I jammed this for years. Yeah. I know I'm going to know it.
Yeah. So it would be nice to have a 6-string Ormsby on hand in standard tuning.
That's what the 7's for, bro.
It just, I don't know about you, but it throws me off massively when I'm I'm playing a 7 and pretending I'm playing a 6-string. Yeah,
there's definitely a talent to it.
Yeah, so definitely we're going to be doing that. Head on over to our link in the description, buy me a coffee, and check out our 4 bonus episodes now, I guess. Lots of good stuff, and I'm sure you guys are going to really enjoy this one. Yeah, so go check all those guys out. They're awesome. Should we crack on with the show? Do some fan mail?
Let's do it.
Take it away.
The first one we have here is from Billy Lascelles, I think is how you'd say it.
I'd say
Lascelles. Sorry, Billy, my apologies. I am useless most of the time. So, hi guys, hope you're doing well and thanks for the shows. Switched to listening in the car whilst driving to work, so now able to listen to the whole show without breaking for kids needing something.
And I'm going to interrupt this and say, is that because you're listening on a streaming platform like Spotify, or are you one of these maniacs that pays for YouTube Premium So you can listen to audio on YouTube when the app's closed.
I use YouTube Premium.
Do you?
I used to use Google Play Music, and YouTube
Oh,
Premium
okay. So you're using YouTube
took over
Premium
from it.
as your music streaming service.
But I can also, while I'm doing that, see if you search onto that for a tune or whatever,
Right.
and there's a live version on YouTube, you can play the videoed version.
Yeah.
With the screen off, which
Sure.
is
Yeah.
chef's kiss, must admit.
So no, I totally agree with you on that, and we've gone off on a tangent here. But I had YouTube Premium when Cobra Kai was initially when season 1 of Cobra Kai came out because I wanted to check that out. Which great show, of course, but didn't justify the YouTube Premium subscription. I think the YouTube Premium subscription is too much money, and I think especially for someone in my position who makes YouTube a lot of money, as a YouTube partner, I should just get a free YouTube Premium subscription. You know what I mean?
I dare say the reason for that would be that they would very likely find it hard to manage who was getting the free versions or not versus who was actually contributing to YouTube.
Anybody that makes them more than $50 a month in ad revenue should get a free YouTube Premium.
That makes sense to me.
Because I can't see it costing them anything. And yeah, anyway.
But they still want your money, Levi.
Exactly.
Short background, started playing at 12, got pretty good, couple of bands in the teens, all awful. About 21-ish, guitar took a back seat and then into various attics cupboards while life happened. A couple of years ago, cleaning stuff out. There's the guitar. Kids want a shot. Took it back up loosely. I'm 42 now. Rusty, but finding it fun again. Glad to hear it, Billy. I think it's like riding a bike, honestly, with guitar. In music, you might not have done it for a while, but an hour or two with it, and I think you pick it right back up. And I've had moments of hiatus myself, maybe not as long as 10 years or so, 20 years or so, but have been there. So here's one part of the question. My original guitar was an Encore, one humbucker out of the Argos catalogue, and looked a bit like a Les Paul Jr. Played it to death, had no idea it was shite. Your first guitar, you will never know it's shite, you don't care.
Yep.
It's only when you start to get better equipment that you go,
that's where the question's going.
Fuck, you know what I mean? Yep. Bought a cheap beginner guitar to replace it, which was a Harley Benton R456 FR. So much easier to play. It holds tune. The action's much nicer. A cheap multi-effects pedal to go with my existing amp. 200 quid-ish all in. So much nicer, and I can play stuff I wouldn't have tried back in the day. Inspired me to continue. So my question is, should I strive for better gear? We'll put better in inverted brackets. A small increase in quality has had a big effect on my playing and motivation. Would a larger one result in similar? I have no plans for my playing other than a hobby, but who knows what might be possible with the right tools. I know that my cheap Harley Benton isn't as good as an Ibanez or a PRS or insert other, but I don't know it isn't as I've never played these other ones. Is my better playing not about gear and more about maturity? We'll tackle this one first, I think, and then we'll move on to the second part of the question.
Yeah.
I think it varies person to person. But I would imagine it's much the same as like driving. You're going to get way more enjoyment out of driving a car that you enjoy driving and is comfortable for you and suits you than you would be.
Trust you to talk about cars.
But even as much as like your seating position.
Sure.
And the same sentiment that like not everybody likes a Flying V or an X shape. Not everybody likes a Les Paul. Not everybody likes a fucking Bigsby and a big fat body, or like if you had a Gretsch or whatever.
Yep.
It's finding what's right for you.
Yep.
And I think we need to be careful in the terminology. In my mind, more expensive doesn't always mean better.
Sure.
I think what you mean is a more refined quality control process or better components.
Yep.
You could have, I mean, my first electric guitar I got, it was my second guitar I ever owned. It was only a wee LTD F50, but that's still one of the best playing guitars I have ever owned. It just, something about it, the neck was slim, the action was low, it played tremendous, there was not really any buzzy fret. It's just a guitar that was really nice and encouraged you.
Yep.
Not an expensive guitar.
Sure.
So I don't think it's necessarily you need to buy better gear. I think you just need to know what it is that you want for the instrument in terms of a setup and stuff, and what the specs are that you want that suits you. And just as a parting comment, the Harley Benton stuff's ridiculous. We spoke about it a few times. Some of those, like the Pro models or whatever else, and the higher end stuff, the Fusion Pro.
Great for knocking out burglars as well.
If your corner.
Yeah.
Was that not an 8-string?
Yeah.
Good on him.
Well, so I kind of agree with what you're saying there. I think that anytime you buy a piece of gear, you're gambling. You're playing the lottery, if you like. And when you buy a cheaper piece of gear, the likelihood of you winning said lottery is considerably lower than you buying a high quality piece of gear. So what I'm saying is you can buy cheap guitars that are actually fantastic. They're just less common because the procedures that are going into the building of the guitars is so dramatically different. Though it's worth pointing out, Billy, when you talk about your first guitar being an Encore 21 years ago, that versus a Harley Benton now, the procedures that are in place for building the manufacture of cheap guitars has improved so dramatically that your likelihood of getting a winner now when you buy a cheap guitar is much better than it was back in the day. I've not played your Encore. I can also tell you it was shit though, you know?
Aye, and I would also say that I think what matters as well is the market. Buying a guitar from Argos, for example, it's a catalogue guitar. No one in Argos is specifically the QC guy for guitars and knows what they're doing. You're buying something for Harley Benton, they're probably getting that from a factory. Might even be World Music.
Yeah, probably.
WMI. And they're going to have people there that not only know what they're talking about, but they build for other companies. So they have a good idea of what the QC should be. And they've worked with the materials. So they are likely to be a lot more hands-on and understanding and knowledgeable in getting you a good instrument out the door at whatever price, versus a company that just buys them in containers and dumps them out.
There's a couple of other things I would add though. So there's generally speaking, we have to generalize. The more money you spend on an instrument, generally speaking, you are going to have a better playing experience from it. But it's worth pointing out that there is a law of diminishing returns on that. If you spend $1,500 on a guitar versus $2,000 on a guitar, the difference between those two instruments versus a $200 guitar and a $500 guitar is going to be insignificant compared to that jump from $200 to $500. So it's not that you need to spend too much money. You just need to make sure that you're getting something that's of decent quality. You know, if you're happy with what you've got, stick to it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I back in my day, teaching when I was teaching a lot of kids, and I got my first Sur, I would turn up for lessons with these kids, and I'd see these horrible, cheap, shitty Encore style guitars that the parents had bought them, and you could see that the kids hated playing music, and I'm like, well, why don't you do this lesson on my guitar and see what a really nice guitar feels like to play? And you could see that almost look of excitement but also disappointment in their face, where it's like, wow, this one isn't hard to play. Oh no, after this lesson I've got to go back to playing my pile of shit. Having a decent guitar that's well set up is a great investment in your time. And you've observed that yourself, Billy, by pointing out that when you played this thing, you just immediately noticed how much better it was to play. So not necessarily a case of having to spend more money, just really ask yourself, is the guitar that you're playing lacking in any area? And would you be able to improve upon those areas by having it professionally set up for maybe 30 or 40 quid versus buying a new guitar? If you're happy, mate, then stick with it.
I think if you took the cheapest guitar you could find and had it plecked, you would still end up with a ridiculous guitar. There's not... I don't want to say there
is a couple of $100 on that though.
Oh no, I'm not. No, it's not cheap. But my point is that you could probably make any guitar play nice. I think the difference is when you're spending a bit more, you're going to get the guitar that plays nice out the box.
Yep.
And whatever considerations have been made, those little attentions to detail,
should
be there. I'm not saying they definitely will, but should be there.
And depending on what type of guy you are, Billy, if you're into like modifications, you could get a lot more life out of your guitar by throwing a new pickup into it, or you could get, improve your overall playing experience. But you didn't mention what your amp is, but I imagine it's a pile of shit. There are options to upgrade, especially if you're looking on the second-hand market. You can get some good stuff. So second part of the question.
Just before we even move on with that, you're talking about the amp. Something as daft as changing the speaker in the amp can make all the difference as well.
Captain Cab over here.
I'm getting that way, man. I think it's important to realise just how important that is as a factor in your tone, even at home. Anyway, second part. Apologies for the length. No need to apologise, Billy. As I've gotten back into guitar, I've been playing for my kids, wife, and even made some really bad videos of spoof songs to give the guys at work a laugh. That's how my brother got started. Just keep going. My problem is now all these people think and comment that, wow, you're amazing at the guitar, and I know I'm not. However, no amount of saying I'm not seems to persuade them. None of them play, though kids are showing some interest. Maybe this is not a terrible thing, but I feel no small amount of guilt over it, as I watch real musicians... no small amount of guilt over it, as I watch real musicians on YouTube, etc., and feel sort of ashamed that people are apparently putting me in a similar category. Could be that I'm reading too much into it, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. I generally don't engage or interact with podcasts, kind of because of this, but feel confident enough that you guys are open to all levels of discussion. I can include details of my cheap rig if you're interested. Thanks for the shows and for listening, Billy.
Yeah, I definitely think on that second part, mate, you're just overthinking it. You have observed that the people that are giving you these compliments don't play instruments themselves, so they don't really know. And also, it's just the polite thing to do, isn't it? If you don't play a musical instrument, if there's something that you don't do and you see somebody that does it, what you deem to be a reasonable level, it's just polite to say you're really good. I wouldn't overthink it.
Aye, it's a compliment. I think it's also worth considering that, as you said yourself, these people don't really play guitar. So you'll know what you think is an acceptable or like an advanced standard.
Yeah.
You might even have been there before yourself, before you gave up the guitar, and you're still trying to get there, and that's maybe why you're being so self-critical.
Yep.
But just accept the compliment, man. Enjoy it. People, it's nicer than somebody either not commenting or being an arsehole about it. At least it's encouragement. So
yeah, you're getting
keep going.
the best thing there, which is you're getting people to listen to what it is that you're doing. Like the hardest thing is getting people to take the time to even put themselves in a position where they could give you feedback on what you've done. So you're living the dream, and keep that dream up, and let us know how it goes. And if you ever want to send us any of your videos, you want us to share your videos, we'd be happy to take a look at them. And
I want to see a rig as well, so please send it in.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And as always, everyone else, please do send us some fan mail to GsolesFanMail@gmail.com. Again, link is in the description of wherever you are listening to this. Unless you're on Spotify, I don't know if that actually appears there.
Either way, GsolesFanMail@gmail.com.
Cool. So let's move on and start the episode by checking out the new Darkness single. Because I know you and I, we both love the Darkness. We both love Permission to Land.
You put that album on, and for the fucking first bend of that guitar note on Black Shuck in it.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm just in. It just sounds like big fucking Marshalls cranked. Not too much gain, but volume all the way up through old Marshall cabs with a big Les Paul in front of it. That's just what it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, they've released a new single. It's called Motor Heart.
I believe the bass player's back in the band, but I don't know if Justin's brother Dan's back
in the
playing
band.
guitar. Is he back as well?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Based on I think you see him in the video of this.
Okay, fair enough.
So yeah, we're going to listen to this. You guys won't be able to hear it. Mike hasn't heard it. This is why we're listening to it. I have listened to it, so I've got my thoughts.
This is Levi Clay's reaction channel.
Yeah. Oh, fuck right off. Justin's looking good though, isn't he?
He is. He's big fucking turkey teeth.
It's definitely the chiclets. Production-wise, it's good.
I mean, he's went to Turkey to get them done.
Oh.
Not that there are turkeys.
This is why I say I think Dan's in the band, because that'll be Dan Hawkins.
Aye.
And FP is he Frankie Powers, the name of the bass man?
I believe so, aye.
Got that 70s prog vibe to it. Yeah, musically, it's cool. It's definitely cool.
It sounds like fucking...
But here's the downside. Justin has lost it. His vocals don't sound good. They don't sound strong. He's got no support and power in his voice. I'm learning all these terms from Melissa.
As daft as it sounds, I think that's intentional in his singing.
You think?
I don't think he's belting, because if you've, like, even the Steel Panther album where he does the backup vocals on is it Fuck All Night and Party All Day or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
In that, he sounds like he could still go to town. This to me just sounds like he's kind of taking the piss a wee bit and almost kind of going Heart Barracuda style, really, really high falsettos.
Well, I hope so. I hope so, because if this album...
This is a weird tune.
Very weird.
You know what it sounds like? Chinese Democracy.
Yeah. I do quite like the line,
feeling.
She's literally a love machine. So, it's very strange. I'm just, based on talking to Melissa about like vocals, and she's always telling me off for the way I sing, because she's like, you're singing with no support, you're going to be damaging your voice in the long run. This just strikes me as somebody that hasn't had any vocal training and has been singing for so long now that it's starting to show.
I don't believe for a second that, given how big the Darkness were when Permission to Land appeared, that they didn't have somebody voice coaching Justin.
And I'm sure he took all his time away from heroin in order to take those lessons.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right, we'll stop there. You get the basic idea, though. Go and check the single out. We're probably going to get a copyright strike for just using the video there, aren't we?
It all sounds a wee bit like Queen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like, maybe Day at the Races kind of style Queen.
Yeah, it's I mean, it actually
almost Roger Taylor's vocals.
It's funny you say that. So
is there a Queen bit in the video?
There's definitely a part in the video where you're like, okay, I see what you're going for here.
Take a balance.
We were just about to get there.
Oh.
I mean, I say Queen in the sense that there's a vacuum cleaner. Filmed on an iPhone by the looks of things.
It looks like Justin's about to go and play tennis. At least he's got a good hoover.
Bizarre. And the tash. It's actually quite funny because it's. I don't think the Darkness wrote songs like this up to this. Feels like a comedy routine. You know what I mean? Like punchline songs.
You say that. Growing on Me is about genital herpes or warts.
But it's about, rather than there being the punchline of everyone gets it. Like there'll be people that are hearing that from you, and they're going, "Oh, I didn't know that." Whereas,
fair,
yeah,
it's a bit more subtle versus completely obvious.
Yeah, throwing some punchlines at you. So, yeah, I'm interested to check out what happens with this, and if they do more stuff. They are they're playing Barrowlands the 9th of December.
Oh, I won't go with that.
We could maybe go and see them.
Maybe.
Why not?
Only if it turns out the next single's got Justin absolutely belting.
Sure. I mean, look at it this way: you go and see them, they're probably going to play 2 songs off the new album, and then they're going to play all of Permission to Land.
I would hope so. I mean, at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if they did their cover of This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us by Sparks, and then their Christmas song as well. Just to fill out the set list.
It is December. That's a really good point.
Just let them ring in peace.
There we go. There's the Mike singing part of this.
Fuck the Tories. There you go. There's two.
It's funny. So like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if you said the Darkness are playing in Glasgow, do you want to come? I would have immediately gone, probably not. But because I've not been to any gigs in years, the idea of just popping down to Barrowlands to see the Darkness, I'm actually up for that. So and it could also, of course, be a Guitar Souls meetup. So
true.
Anyone fancy going to see the Darkness in Glasgow? Oh, that reminds me, Devin Townsend tickets go on sale for Glasgow. He's playing Glasgow now. They go on sale on Wednesday. So I'll be getting tickets for that. Would you like me to pick you up a ticket?
Potentially, yeah. We'll speak about it after the podcast.
Cool. So let's move on. Let's move on to something that makes me happy.
Obviously, Zakk Wylde being part of Ozzy Osbourne's touring band in 2022. This was only announced 4 days ago.
I mean, Ozzy will be dead by then, but
they'll have a hologram version of him on stage, I'm sure. Either Sharon will be like fucking puppeting his taxidermied body, just having him dance on stage.
Yeah, it's kind of tragic in that sense.
That was quite brutal, wasn't it?
You joke about holograms. I have seen a hologram live, actually.
What gig?
I saw Michael Jackson perform as a hologram.
Oh, you saw a hologram perform as Michael Jackson?
Yes. Good. Yes.
Michael Jackson was good at changing skin colour, but he's not good at changing like actual matter.
His matter. Yeah, so give us this story.
Yes, guitarist Zakk Wylde will be right alongside Ozzy Osbourne when the metal icon returns to the stage in 2022. Get those horns up, bros. No more tours, as he said. Wylde, who did not appear on Ozzy's Ordinary Man album, is not expected to appear on Osbourne's Progress follow-up, told Classic Rock that he does expect to be on board for the live shows when Osbourne returns to touring next year. Yes, I will be, stated Wylde when asked about his touring involvement. Oz is getting himself back healthy, and then we'll be back out on the road. It's been a rough road for Ozzy since first announcing his No More Tours 2 trek in 2018. That included delayed dates due to a nasty fall that displaced metal rods in his back and his subsequent recovery. That was then followed by more delays due to the pandemic that wiped out all touring over the past year.
More on that at the end of the show.
Yes. Wylde also shared that he was not bothered by missing out on Osbourne's recordings. Producer-guitarist Andrew Watt had led the way, calling up Chad Smith and Duff McKagan to help out in the recording of the previous record, Ordinary Man. Watt is also working with Osbourne on his next release as well. I thought he and Andrew Watt did a great job, and I'm not on the new one either. Again, it's Oz and Andrew. I understand why I'm not in the studio. Oz once said to me he didn't want to be the lead singer in Black Label Society. You have your own thing now, so go to it, said Wylde.
Yeah.
Okay, aye, fair enough.
Yeah.
He added, I don't have to be involved in everything Oz does. I'll always be there for him and Sharon. If they call now and ask me to go over to feed their dogs for 3 days, I'm there. At present, Osbourne is expected to resume touring in early 2022, kicking off a European trek January 2022 in Berlin. See all of his scheduled dates here, which is on Loudwire.
Yeah. So I'm probably gonna try and go and see that, aren't I?
Yeah, of course you are.
Get to see The Godfather. It's funny. Like obviously I know like Andy Torrance had tickets for the shows that have been cancelled.
I believe so, aye, because he
Yeah.
keeps talking about how like these are never getting rescheduled, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Every time it does, it gets pushed again.
Yeah, and every time that these tours were announced, I wasn't interested in the slightest. But now Zakk's on guitar. I'm in. I'll get a ticket for that, no problem.
That's all you need.
Yeah. So Andy, if you don't want to go anymore, I'll take that ticket off you. Because I imagine these are just the rescheduled dates, so that technically they're probably already sold out. So it'd be a shame to miss that one. But of course, Zakk Wylde does follow #Levi's Library on Instagram. So
Really?
maybe Zakk, if Zakk's not watching, Zakk, if you're watching, can you get me on the guest list? Have you seen who Megadeth's touring bass player is?
James Lomenzo
Of Black Label Society.
also of Megadeth.
Yeah. Oh,
He
yeah,
played in
course.
Washington Is Next.
Yeah.
Or whatever that album is called. Can't remember.
Uh,
He plays a beautiful Explorer bass.
Yeah.
Did so when I saw them live with Sean and Glenn Drover at Download Festival 2016 maybe.
I can get on board with James Lomenzo as being the bass player in Megadeth.
Tremendous player.
Because he's a great bass player and he has history of the band. Not as much history as Ellison, but yeah, much better than just bringing in some unknown guy, I think. For a band as old as that.
Ah, that's fair enough. I can't argue with that.
That's a good feel thing. If you were just going to see them and they had just some unknown session bass player, that's not cool. This feels like you're still seeing some of Megadeth.
I mean, technically, anytime you see Megadeth and Dave's there, you're seeing Megadeth. I don't mean that in any shitty way to the
sure.
long-standing members. But yeah, okay, fair enough. It's not quite the same as just having some
A different
random
level
guy
of
in.
Megadeth. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Aye. Okay, fair enough.
So okay, let's tell me about this auction.
So
story.
I did see this online. Gotta Have Rock and Roll are now auctioning off a load of Kurt Cobain's old equipment. What caught my eye was there was 4 thumbnails specifically.
I'll bring them up for people.
Yeah, and you'll see that I screenshotted it as well as sent the link. Okay. So the first thing you've got is Kurt's personal amp, one of his Fender, is it a Bassman, maybe? Princeton?
I'm not sure what that is, actually. I don't know enough about Fender amps. Yeah.
Big Fender fucking cabin head, right? Cool. Maybe the kind of thing you would actually want to bid to own. What's the next image? A fucking plectrum. Fuck off. There is no chance that Tortex has lasted all these years if Kurt was using it and somebody's just going to be like, well, I'll just pick that up. Fuck off. Just fuck off.
I like the top comment. Wow, the photo totally proves it.
It speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And the reason it kind of struck me is obviously there's a lot of auctions at the moment going, but it's usually artists selling their own equipment.
Yeah.
This one's obviously someone selling it on behalf of Kurt or as a private collector.
Sure.
Maybe the estate, but I doubt that. But a fucking plectrum?
Yeah.
Of all the things that you would put up, you know what I mean? I saw that his distortion pedal went for silly money.
You just can't trust things like that. Like it's not a prized possession because it's a pick, and therefore I can't prove it. There's no way for me to prove it. But years and years ago, I was working with the Lane family, the Sean Lane's family, and they sent me one of Sean's picks, or what they claimed to be one of Sean's Jazz 3s. And I have that in my copy of Powers of 10. And, you know, if that legitimately was one of Sean Lane's Jazz 3s that Sean Lane had played with, that's cool. Not some sort of mad holy grail or anything like that, but I'd never be able to prove it.
Though. So
I'd never advertise it if I'm never going to sell it either. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, check this out. This was Sean Lane's pick.
Oh, like I've got picks that I've caught at gigs that have got people's names and that on them. Doesn't mean necessarily they use them. They probably just take them off the stand and fuck them out, as people do.
Yeah. So
what else is there on the bids? Because I didn't really check through it. I thought it'd be better for us to look through. Handwritten, unreleased song lyrics. If they're real, that's pretty fucking cool. I'll give you that. Okay, right. A signed album cover. Again, quite cool. Band inserts signed. I don't think that's all there is on the site, or on the auction. But
let's have a look.
It just caught my attention that there's Kurt Cobain's amp, and then there's a plectrum, and I was like, "What? Like, how the fuck can you think that is in any way, shape, or form slightly related in terms of like what somebody might actually want to own?"
I mean,
like,
to be fair, I'm looking at their site now, and they seem to have a lot of. You know, they've got a Chris Cornell owned Les Paul, a Jimmy Page owned Strat, George Harrison guitar, Van Halen guitar. Okay, so
Okay, then they've got
definitely
quite a lot of
this
cool
kind
stuff.
of place that you could go. You know, Prince's "My Name Is Prince" music video smashed guitar. Let's bring this up.
Is that Yannick Gears? Fucking is he?
Yeah.
Beauty. Okay, right, fair enough. Website's pretty fucking cool. Clearly somewhat legit with the amount of shit they've got.
Yeah.
And it's not just bands. It looks like there's like cartoons and drawings and artwork and basically just anything of celebrity memorabilia.
Let's have a look for
That's
Nirvana
cool.
then.
Aye, let's do it. I think it was Kurt Cobain that was showing up, but I suppose if you write Nirvana, it'll come in as well.
So they've got minimum. No, these are literally all the items they have.
6 lots.
So, and the estimate for that amp is $100,000 to $250,000.
What is the estimate for the plectrum?
Have a guess.
I'm going to say, because they're clearly asking silly money, at least $3,000.
I would say, yeah, 3 is probably not bad. I reckon the estimate will be between 2 and 5 grand
For a plectrum.
Oh, okay, 1 to 1.5. It's still ridiculous, and it does actually have 2 bids on it.
I was just about to say, what the fuck?
That's
Someone has bid.
No one's bid on the amp or any of the other stuff,
Except the handwritten and stage used Nevermind tour set list.
That's quite a cool lot.
$10,000. First opening bid? Nah. £10,000 for a bit of paper.
This is quite wild, actually. So the set list, a used set list, going for estimate of 15 to 20 grand versus the handwritten unreleased lyrics.
I think that's
it's valued at the same. I would imagine this should be valued at more.
I would say less.
Yeah,
there's not so much for it to be linked on. I mean, it's really unique, but it's hard to verify.
I would
that's real
for any of this stuff to be sold. I would imagine that it's all been stringently verified.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got plenty of examples of Kurt's handwriting, I guess. So
the way I kind of mean, I don't mean that you couldn't verify it through someone who could then say it definitely is. I think what I mean is that in terms of someone buying these kind of things, there's got to be some form of, I don't want to say sentimental value, but definitely some sort of value.
Sure.
Buying a set list with all the song titles that you recognise to then display in your house to look cool versus lyrics that don't have any context to who they actually were written by.
Sure.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're not worth. Just in my mind, I would think that most people would probably go for the set list over the unreleased lyrics.
Yep.
If the unreleased lyrics were signed or something by him, different story.
I'm just having a spin through the other artists that they have listed on their site.
Have they got Belle Delphine?
They've got
signed bathwater.
They've got Cardi B, so I've opened that up to see what they're selling of Cardi B's. They've got 9 Prince items.
Previously installed fake breast.
26 bits of Spice Girls merch. Fantastic.
That'll be worth a fortune.
I'm coming back here.
Trading cards. Don't click that. Don't click it, Levi. Don't.
They're all baseball cards.
And Pokemon. Whoa, wait a wee minute. Go back up now. What does that say, Pokemon? They're estimated 40 to 60 to 80 grand for a complete first set.
Yeah. When are people going to learn trading cards have value?
Trading cards that have been kept in the right condition, if they are first editions or they are funny prints, definitely have value.
Yeah.
If you don't have them graded or sealed, probably not worth your time.
Well, I mean, you say that, but like I've got okay, here's the Cardi B stuff. I've got some Magic cards that I could individually sell for 500 quid, no problem. And they're played. In fact, they're not just played; they're in my decks. So,
what would they be worth if they were immaculate grade A?
Oh Christ!
Exactly,
4 times that. Yeah,
that's totally different from the.
Sure.
Those Pokemon cards are worth a few quid, and then you get them, and like because I think we know disrespect to anybody that maybe still is into Pokemon cards. My memories of Pokemon cards were being a wee boy and not knowing that they had any value other than being a wee card that you could kid on. You were killing people with imaginary monsters. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Want this wee Cardi B outfit?
Nah.
No, not for you.
Wouldn't fit me.
Fair enough. I think you'd look fantastic in it.
I think
could alter it in some way.
I would think that Fat Joe's clothes would probably fit me better.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that was our Kurt Cobain auction story. Everything's all the links are kind of failing on my side of things. So this is a you know how we love a I'm not a lawyer thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this one, you don't need to be a lawyer. Okay, you don't. And I hate to kind of give it away that there's no case here.
I am looking forward to you reading through this because I want to hear it and let me kind of react to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do it.
Go on, have a read.
A man named Kirk Johnson has...
I should probably start by saying man files copyright lawsuit against Nickelback over the song Rockstar.
Fair, right? A man named Kirk Johnson has filed a lawsuit against Nickelback, Roadrunner Records, Warner Chappell Music Inc., and Live Nation, stating the band's 2005 song Rockstar is copyright infringement. Well, 16 years later, nearly 17 years later, wait a minute, I recognise that. Right? According to the suit, Johnson wrote a song called Rockstar in 2001. Well done. There's also a film called Rockstar. You're going to sue fucking Mark Wahlberg, you know? While he was in the band Snowblind Revival, and made 15 copies of the master tape to send to record labels, including Roadrunner and Warner Chappell Music. He claims the labels gave Nickelback access to the song and they in turn copied it.
So in theory, when I hear something like that, I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. There's potential here. There is potential here.
If he can prove his claims.
If he has a song and that he's got the recording of the song that he made in 2001 for a song called Rockstar that he did send to their Nickelback's label and publishers, there's potential.
Okay,
it wouldn't be completely unheard of.
But let me continue.
Go on, continue.
Because clearly there's going to be something in here that's a big twist. Johnson elaborated a substantial amount of the music was copied, including the tempo, song form, melodic structure, harmonic structures, and lyrical themes. He's seeking damages for copyright infringement and an order against further infringement. Listen to the songs below. Nickelback affirmed that Johnson cannot claim copyright infringement because the two songs are not substantially similar to an ordinary observer.
I'll add to this, they are also not substantially similar to a trained professional.
Well, the good thing about these things when it comes to a court of law is they always do it by a layman rather than somebody who can tie them together.
Sure.
So it's the same with like noise complaints. It's always to like what would be an unreasonable noise to a regular person or whatever. Magistrate Judge Susan Hightower. Imagine being the Magistrate Judge Hightower.
Yeah, great name for a judge.
Tremendous. Go on yourself, Susie. Magistrate Judge Hightower reviewed the suit and submitted a recommendation to Judge Robert Pittman of the U.S. District Court for Western District of Texas on August 11th, saying that Johnson should be taken out back and shot like the dog he is. Sorry, kidding on.
That wasn't what she said.
No, it wasn't. While she said the complaints against Live Nation should be dismissed, she noted that Johnson rightfully alleged that the members of Nickelback had access to his composition. Okay. Johnson has alleged facts sufficient to raise his right to relief above the speculative level, which is all that is required at the pleading stage. That was some jargon-ass shit.
Sure.
Furthermore, she mentions that it's possible for a juror to determine whether or not the songs share substantial similarity. Whether Johnson will be able to produce evidence that these similarities rise to the level of substantial or striking in view of the Nickelback defendant's level of access is yet to be determined, she stated.
Right.
So we're going to listen...
Would you like me to put Nickelback's Rockstar on, just so you can remind yourself of what that one sounds like?
I'm quite into the thumbnail, so why not? No, I don't actually.
Classic song.
Song. I could probably pick up the acoustic and play it.
Yeah. Let's check out the band Snowblind Revival's Rockstar. So before I clicked on this, there was very much this could be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This could very easily
fall into the grey area of, are we going to see a landmark case brought against?
Well, it would never be a landmark case because it would just be an immediate settlement out of court. You know what I mean?
Only if they accept the settlement.
Sure.
And
but
it seems if
when you hear this recording, they'd accept the settlement. This is someone that never had any money.
Oh, if they're petty enough to go 16, 17 years before they go, wait a minute, I recognise that, and then claim that it's so close that it's indistinguishable, then they're probably hanging on for as much money as they can get.
Are you ready for this?
Yes. I mean, am I?
Huh. You're definitely not going to be a rock star someday.
No, if he's going to double track his vocals like that.
What? I'm gonna
live life in the fast lane. I'm gonna be a rock star someday.
Does this remind you of Nickelback's song Rockstar?
It reminds me of Sublime. Or like one of those kind of alt grunge bands for the 90s in Seattle.
Yeah.
Or even Reef, Plays Your Hands.
But not Nickelback's Rockstar.
Saying that, the chord progression's somewhat similar, but that's probably the same for almost every single blues-derived rock song that kind of took the 8-bar and went,
Yeah. Oh, you think I enjoy this? What is this nonsense? Can you remember the guitar solo in Rockstar by Nickelback?
Was there one?
No.
Didn't think so.
So,
At least they tried there. It was...
I'm going to argue that there's probably not much of a case here. I think the interesting thing about this, though, is that nobody's listed who the lawyer is that's taken this case on. And that's odd to me because someone's a charlatan here. You know what I mean? This case shouldn't have been being taken on. Sorry, I said that. Showing off my Facebook screen there. Not that I'm hiding anything.
I think it sounds like Subterranean Homesick Blues.
I think it sounds like something that needs to get in the fucking bin.
It's not great, but it sounds like Stone Temple Pilots, isn't it?
Sure.
Much cooler song. Oh, we haven't even spoken about this yet.
Speaking of legal situations.
Aye. Speaking of cunts having their cunt uppance.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. The cunt uppance. So everybody remembers, and we poked so much fun at this gentleman.
Yes.
And rightfully so, aside from being a fucking charlatan that ripped people off, and starting a website called Levi Clay is a fraudster or whatever.
Is that still up?
I don't believe so, no.
Oh.
Can't afford the hosting costs, can he?
No, he's bankrupt.
Lance Benedict of guitar brand TTM, the forefather of ripping people off online. It seems lots
what
of
brand?
TTM.
TTM doesn't exist.
No, that is true. They ripped off
Through the mist. Lance Benedict can be seen hiding in the swamps of Florida, pretending he's an alligator, trying to avoid the FBI as they chase him for all that money he owes. However, things are closing in on Lancey, baby.
So allegedly, we have to say that allegedly, Lance Benedict started TTM Guitars, and did take on endorsees, and those endorsees paid him like $1,500, sometimes $1,000 or whatever for their custom artist instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Again, guys, hot tip for you: never, ever, ever agree to be an endorsee for a company of guitars that A, you've never played before, and B, don't currently exist. You know, a company that doesn't have guitars out there.
Yeah, I kind of 50% of that. I did take a bit of a gamble with Ormsby, but I had known the brand.
Sure.
And I was happy to take the gamble because I'd seen enough to go, there's definitely good shit in there.
Well, that's that. The track record side of things is really fucking important.
Yep.
Lance had no track record. Actually, if you looked into Lance, he had track record of selling Chinese guitars listed as American guitars.
Literally under TTM.
Under TTM. So, it was a trap that lots of people fell into, and a lot of them have had to, fess up to themselves. The thing that I told them, you've become a victim to your own ego. You think that this is furthering your career, and you can't see that you are being ripped off. So Lance took thousands and thousands and thousands of bucks from people buying guitars. He took thousands, tens of thousands of bucks from people selling them franchises to sell the guitars. And one investor in particular, he took $100,000 for a share of the company, for a majority. I think it was a majority share of the company. But the details of that are a little bit murky. I forget the details. It's been so damn long now.
Fucking lot of money.
It was a lot of money. Yeah, he took all of this money and eventually started, shock fucking horror, sending out Chinese guitars again. People realized what was going on, started chasing him for money. And what did he do? Oh no, the company's dissolved. Oh dear. Oh, I'm gonna have to declare personal bankruptcy. Oh no, I can't. Oh, I don't have to pay anybody back. It's a tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. Scumbag is a beast. Let's go with that. Scumbag works too, actually.
He is a bit of a scumbag, and he's definitely a beast in the sense that the British terminology of beast.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, he raped people financially. So when we are looking at the situation he's currently in, because he was trying to declare bankruptcy, Andrew Catania of All That Shreds is really the dog with a bone on this. He kind of took this case on after I was done with it.
Still doing God's work.
Yeah.
Not wasting any time anytime he gets the chance.
Yeah. Turning up for these kind of
open court attainments on the phone
calls,
mm-hmm.
so he could listen in on what was going on and ask Lance questions and apply pressure to him, because the idea was if this bankruptcy went through, Lance essentially would be free of all of these debts and wouldn't have to worry about them. But
And-
there was this one hanging over his head, this $100,000. That's a lot of money.
Now, you say debts. I think if we really clarify when we say debts, what we actually mean is money that he's taken from people that's not accounted for that he should pay back.
Good point.
Not necessarily debt as in the sense that he owes a credit card company or whatever.
Well, I think in the $100,000 one, this was a debt. This did go to court, and he was ordered to pay it.
I just mean as in like he's not. It's not as if he owes a company
Sure.
money for something he's bought.
Yeah.
Or he sold them and not gave them.
Yeah.
It's people that he owes money.
Yeah.
Almost, and it's like money that he probably has stashed somewhere. In my personal
Sure.
opinion,
Yeah.
just putting that very clear out there, it would. I wouldn't believe for a second that if he could take $100,000 off of one person, that he's got a lot more money lying about than he pretends he has.
Well, if you followed his social media, he was living it up like a fucking baller for the whole period that the TTM scam was going on. So he
Didn't
could
help
have
any-
burned for it. It's entirely possible.
didn't help any that he played it that well. There were quite a lot of people who would fight his corner so
Yeah.
viciously that they were like giving him access to holiday homes.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like,
And telling the world that I was a scumbag.
I mean, you're a
I
scumbag,
am a
but you weren't
scumbag,
wrong.
Yeah. No, I guess that's a fair point.
You're
Fair
not
point to
wrong, Donnie.
distinguish.
You're just an asshole.
Exactly. So where Lance kind of fell foul on this particular situation was when he took this $100,000 from Step Ahead Music. It was for a share in the company, and they have the paperwork for that. And at no point did he actually file with any interested parties that there was another owner, if you like. So when
Hashtag
it came
fraud.
to him dissolving the company, signing all of these documents saying he's the sole owner of the company and he's the only person that has any interest, etc., that was fraudulent. That was fraudulent, allegedly. No, that was fraudulent, allegedly.
You say allegedly. This has been.
I know. Yeah. Well, so this is a filing from the United States Bankruptcy Court. And the basic gist of this is, while he's allowed to declare himself as bankrupt and he can have his debts written off, this one particular part of his debt, this $100,000 that he owns, will not fall under that bankruptcy claim. It will not exonerate him of the liability of that $100,000 because of the fraud that is surrounding this. So this isn't a debt that you have because you can't afford to pay your bills. This is money that you obtained illegally. And that's gonna dog you for the rest of your fucking life, Lance, and rightfully so. Like, you're gonna declare bankruptcy, start up another scam, because I'm sure that's what you do, because you're a piece of shit. But you owe that $100,000. Now, sure, those guys are gonna struggle to get it from him, but no matter what happens, he owes that money. And if he ever gets a real job again, we can just start having it deducted from his wages. Unfortunately, loads and loads and loads of other people have lost out on money. They're never going to see their money again from Lance. That's a shame, and I don't want to say it's your fault. You should have listened to me. It is a shame, and I wish you'd listened sooner, not in the sense that if you listened you wouldn't have done it, but more in a sense of when you had done it, there were a lot of guys that did get their money back, and it was because they acted fast. They realised what was going on, and they were like, right, I need to start, working to get my money back now. Rather than other people that just buried their heads in the sand and were just like, no, it's going to be fine. Lance is a good guy. Lance isn't a good guy. So
He proves that quite often.
Yeah.
So as soon as I see any sort of company traded under like smaller than giants pianos, I'm going to know what's going on.
Yeah. So good work, Andrew Catania. You absolute champion. Hero. Put so much more work into this than I did. I think that's what my legacy is as a content creator. I do these investigative journalism pieces and I cover subjects, and then someone else takes it on and makes it blow up. You had the fake guitar thing. I was doing that 5 years before the YouTube videos. The Chapman thing, all these things that Kalen keeps taking on. Like, I did Stevie T first, and he takes these things on and does them massively to massive audiences. And Andrew Catania taking on the TTM thing when I was the only one banging on about it. Just so y'all remember, I'm like the old grandfather of the scene that, like, whenever something happens, Levi probably did it first.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Exactly. So I think that moves us on to our main story, which is really just to talk about COVID, shock horror.
Yes, and the impact we're now starting to see on our collective need for freedom, our collective need for progress. And really, I just wanted to talk about this as the main story. It's a couple of stories rolled into one, but I thought it was really relevant because I am genuinely fucking gutted I didn't get to play Bloodstock. I'm just as gutted, for total clarity, that a member of the band was unwell and is unwell and has obviously been at risk because of that. They seem okay, which is...
Well, I mean, plays in a brutal death metal band, so not all is normal.
I'm not saying he's mentally okay. What I'm saying is that he's certainly dealing with COVID as well as he can.
Seems as mental as he normally is.
But there's obviously going to be a knock-on effect for loads of people. There was Slam Dakota, which was a festival in the States, had a big outbreak. Someone tested positive at that. Obviously, the reason we missed Bloodstock not only was because Martin tested positive, but because their standards are very stringent. And essentially the way it worked was, as an artist, you had to have both your JAGs, your vaccines, and your certificate to say that you've had it, waited 14 days for the second JAG to kick in, etc., and a negative test, or a negative test upon arrival that was valid within the first 36 hours or whatever, right? Totally fair guidelines, but they're also going to be guidelines that will probably cause trouble.
Yeah.
And when I say cause trouble, I mean that as in, like, interpersonally. These aren't bad precautions to take in my mind. Everybody's going to draw their own line, though, and I think that's where the big problem's going to be. The amount of people who deny the idea of COVID being as bad as it is, and then people talking about how COVID passports are just fucking authority stamping down on us, and it's authoritarian, and it's controlling you, and it's just a power grab, and, like...
Yeah, to what end?
the conspiracy theorists, like, coming out the woodwork in terms of thinking this is some sort of clandestine control fucking plot. It's
to
madness.
Stop people from seeing Party Cannon.
not just that's an example just now,
sure.
but for all sorts of things, like people talking about how it's the government already taking away your freedoms. You can't go on holiday without testing. Like, that's not taking away your freedom. That's putting a precaution in place.
Yeah, fair point.
What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, I can see why you'd be annoyed by that. I can see why, if you don't believe it's as much an issue as other people do, that you wouldn't be happy about doing that. I do take great umbrage at the fact that no one's really talking about, if you do want to go on holiday and you get it all booked, when it comes to actually doing your testing for the holiday, which I don't think the travel agents of that are talking about, you are talking about a lot of money. Like, someone commented something like they were looking at being charged $7,000 to be tested to go on holiday, so they didn't have to self-isolate when they got there and back.
Right.
$7,000 on top of your holiday. The holidays have already went through the roof in price, not only because of Brexit, but because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
You're talking, for a family holiday, right? 2 adults, 2 kids. You're genuinely looking at $4,000 to go to Spain.
Yeah.
So
it's not viable.
Totally not, unless you've got a lot of money.
Sure.
And in that case, to go back to what I'm saying, I can see why people would be annoyed or dismayed, or how it become a problem regarding the testing and whatever else. But I think we're walking a fine line here where we need that precaution, because I would rather not catch COVID if I don't have to. I'd rather not be spreading it either if I don't have to. And I think people maybe need to just come to terms with the fact that this isn't in my opinion, it's not a control method or some sort of overbearing governmental tyranny. It's now a fact of life. The full world is now looking at this in its own way, in its own ways.
So I don't think it's practical. What you went through is, you're working within the parameters of the that have been set out by the festival, which in turn are being set out by the government, obviously. I don't see it being hugely practical in the long term, because how many bands had to pull out of Bloodstock? Do you know?
There was a good few pulled out before we even knew that we weren't going to make it, but those weren't just because of like positive tests or anything. But a lot of it was to do with COVID testing and visas and travel expenses. Yeah.
Because the thing with those positive tests is you just don't know. You can be asymptomatic and then just suddenly, oh fuck, I've got a positive test. The fear is you could have a false positive test as well.
Well, I totally agree with that as well. So for clarification, what happened was a couple of days before the fest, maybe as long as a week before, Martin had said he wasn't feeling well after he'd got his first jag.
Yeah.
I said I was kind of experiencing the same, to be honest. We'll just need to wait and see how it pans out. And then he was saying he was really quite not feeling good. Lethargic, felt kind of fluish, whatever else. So he took a test at home, and that came up positive. He then said to us, obviously, as a band, listen, we should prepare for the worst here because there's every chance. We all supported him in that regard. He then, just to be safe, decided to go to a drive-through test centre, phoned up and said, listen, here's the scenario. Should I come and get officially tested? And they said, yep, get along, got booked in, blah, blah, blah. And then he got the text message over to say that it was positive. So I agree with you talking about false positives and stuff. And like I was saying, I know that the Bloodstock themselves specifically had very stringent regulations for it. I think people will probably fall into those categories themselves automatically. Even people that don't believe so much in COVID, if they get a positive test, they're probably going to want a second opinion on that in case, oh, wait a minute, here is the...
But some people might not have the time because, so to be clear, I'm not saying that false positives are a widespread thing. I'm not going down some conspiracy route. I'm just saying that a positive test doesn't necessarily mean a positive test. Having a second test is kind of important in a scenario like that. But you mentioned that one thing that bands could do is they could get tested on arrival.
That's something they are doing, as far as I know. Or you can submit your test as long as it's within like 24 to 48 hours before you got to the festival site. That would count. Yeah,
because it's just it's the same concern. Like if it happens close enough to the gig, you're gubbed. Like Melissa's been lucky with it in the sense that she's had a bunch of wedding bookings that wouldn't normally have been her gig, but they've happened because someone else that is in the band has had a positive test, so they can't do the gig. And there's this, like, wedding gigs for musicians, function gigs, wedding gigs, they're a big part of how a lot of performing musicians make a living. And I don't see it as being long-term viable to be in any line of work where you can essentially just go, oh, fuck, I don't know how this has happened, but I can't work now for 14 days or whatever. There's going to be no sort of government assistance in a scenario like that.
So I was going to say, there's
You're
no
just going to have
support.
to deal with it. And that I just don't see that as being long-term viable. It's going to hammer the cost of insurance for festivals, for bands, because in theory, I would imagine, well, it might be in the terms and conditions for Bloodstock, but depending on who pulled out, if the headliners, someone in the headlining band got COVID and they pulled out, people might potentially be in line for a refund on the ticket because they might have bought the ticket with the intention of seeing whoever the headliner was. And it's a risky, like, for our industry, there's a lot of fear and risks over what this might mean.
I will say, I get the impression that from all the comments I've seen of bands having to drop off, Bloodstock specifically, right? Obviously, I had my eyes on that because I was wanting to see who was going to be playing when I was supposed to be playing. There wasn't all that many comments at all that weren't anything but, shame we can't see you, but you have to do what you have to do.
Sure.
Still looking forward to the weekend. Be good to see X and Y smash it and whatever else. I think everybody was on the same page because we're so new to this experience of things being opened up, but with a precaution. So I think everybody was fairly forgiving.
Sure.
You're right, though. The longer that goes on, the less sustainable that's going to be because people are just going to either get fed up or, as you say, costs will rise to the point where it's unfeasible even from planning stages to get that happening.
Yeah, and there's all the knock-on costs, isn't there? So let's say Bloodstock, you book tickets for Bloodstock, but then the two headliners get a random case of COVID, so they have to pull out. The festival's probably not going to cancel, but they're in a weird position where they probably have to refund a lot of people. A lot of people probably decide that they don't want to come, but then associated travel costs, they can't get refunds on those. And it's just all these knock-on things can really, really fuck you off. Our friend Katie, she, Mags, that she lives with, went to visit someone who in turn turned out to have COVID, which in turn meant Mags got COVID. So Katie and the family all had to do the tests, and Mags came up positive. Katie came up negative, but because she was living with someone who was positive, she had to self-isolate or just kind of stay away from her. They had some family events booked at Balmoral, like a high tea type thing.
And it's not as if Balmoral's cheap or or easy to get bookings in.
Exactly. So she called up and explained the situation, and she'd paid a deposit she'd paid like a £80 deposit or something like that. And they were like, well, we have to keep £50 of that deposit.
I'm going to speak to Katie after this because that's nonsense.
Well, no. So I explained to her that it's nonsense, and I said, look, if you're going to a company like this and saying, I've changed my mind, I don't want to come, then it's totally reasonable for them to say, well, we need to keep that deposit because you're messing us around. But if you go to that company and say, I have an infectious disease, I also can't afford to lose this deposit, so I'm just going to come anyway, just so you know. They're then going to turn around and say, you're not welcome, at which point they can't take your money, say you're not welcome to have the service that you've paid for, and we're going to keep that money. They'd have to refund it then, right?
If any service contract has been frustrated by coronavirus, the Competitions and Markets Authority consider that is not due or fair reasons to keep deposits in any circumstance.
Yeah.
The contract is null and void in that regard.
Sure.
And I won that out with a company that does holiday hires.
Sure.
When I booked the stag do last year.
Yeah.
And the same people folded with another friend of mine who'd booked before, and they tried to keep thousands of pounds of his, and he was like, don't think so.
Yeah.
Here you go.
But so this is what I'm drawing to the reason I brought it up, is Balmoral are just trying to take advantage of the situation. And I get it. Like, unfortunately for them, they are in a position where they're going to have a table that is empty now.
It might even be the
case. Be able to fill, but that's not the end consumer's fault. Like, totally. Take that up with the government.
It might also be that they think, at least certainly the person on the other end of the phone thinks, because it's been business as usual beforehand, that those terms and conditions are stipulated when you book, and that's it. Because under any other circumstances, any other time, that probably would just be a, sorry, you'll need to suck it up. But the coronavirus has thrown up a lot of changes for consumer rights in that regard, because, as you say, Competition and Markets Authority don't see that as fair. You can't keep a hold of money for a service that you legally can't provide to someone, not because of them.
Yeah, I had a nightmare, same situation, holiday money, trying to get a refund on holiday. It was a nightmare. And this fucking multi-million-pound company were trying to make me feel bad, saying, everything's up in the air for us. We don't know like how we're going to get through this financially. We don't know if we can afford to give you your money back type thing. It's like, motherfucker, you, after this is all over, you're still going to own a massive bit of land with about fucking 30 log cabins on it, yeah? So you're still going to own that.
If you're that skint, sell your fucking assets.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm over here being told I'm not getting my money back for a holiday that I've paid for in full that you can't provide for me. I'm just an individual here, looking forward to enjoy my first holiday in 2 fucking years.
I think companies that haven't put money away and been savvy and won't try and pull themselves up with their bootstraps are just lazy.
Yeah.
And that's often the argument you hear about people who fall in hard times. So if they can't get the support, fuck companies getting it either.
Yeah. Anyway, so the reason we went with this is because there's a couple of COVID-related stories. Iron Maiden's Bruce Dickinson has tested positive for COVID-19. I hate this next bit, despite being vaccinated. Yeah.
The vaccine is not there to stop you getting coronavirus. It's to stop the effects being as bad and to minimise the risk of you getting it.
Yeah, so
it's to help you defend your body.
Yeah, just Iron Maiden's Bruce Dickinson test positive for COVID-19 is enough of a headline there, a byline. Despite being vaccinated, just adds to this whole
misunderstanding.
Is an anti-vax sentiment, so I don't appreciate it.
It's a serious misunderstanding, isn't it? It's a misrepresentation, actually. It's probably a fairer way to put it.
Yeah.
And then Korn cancel a show amidst confirmed COVID-19 case. The latest band to fall victim to the Delta variant.
Yeah.
So I think we are probably going to be talking about this for a long time still. I would rather not.
If we do, the industry collapses.
Or something changes. I don't know what. I don't know how this adapts to the new model of probably online only, no longer allowed in person. Das ist verboten. But we're all just going to have to wait and see what happens, aren't we? Really?
Yeah. And then finally, Live Nation will require vaccines or negative COVID tests from artists and concert goers. I've seen a lot of artists take issue with this, obviously most notably Eric Clapton. But yeah, I mean, still, this is pandery to me. Live Nation will require vaccines or negative COVID tests from artists and concert goers. That's just not going to, right at the top here, Bruce Dickinson vaccinated, so the vaccine is irrelevant.
I don't think it's irrelevant. I think they will probably want you to be double vaccinated and have a negative test, or a negative test if you're about to be vaccinated.
Sure.
Because regardless of whether you have the vaccines or not, you can still contract and pass on the coronavirus. The point is that this will help you be healthier minimise risks.
But if you remember at the start of all of this, one of the things was like, don't touch your face. Shouldn't be touching your face. Wash your hands 15 times a day.
Advice from a man who walked around the hospital with people who have coronavirus shaking their hands and shock, fucking horror, got it.
Yeah.
Then allowed the NHS to treat him,
Yeah.
and then pretended they were heroes so we could all clap in their steps, and then refused to give them pay rises,
Yeah.
and then allowed private companies to charge them a fucking arm and a leg to park outside their work,
Yeah.
and further devalued the NHS.
Mike's gone political. I mean,
I've
you
not
can't
gone
talk about
political.
something like this without it being inherently political.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making is, there was this, wash your hands, don't touch your face, etc. Why was that? Well, that's because if you touch something that's been touched recently by someone that's infected, it's entirely possible that you could pick up the virus, carry the virus. Don't touch your face because you don't want to get in your system. It's entirely possible, and it lives on you for what, a day or something like that. I think the details are irrelevant. But the whole idea of going, oh, okay, well, I've got my vaccines and I've got a negative test. I'm going to go into this festival now. Oh, but I touched the door handle earlier today on the way here, and I'm carrying COVID on my hand. Like, it's just not. This isn't just like a blanket of protection. This isn't like a magic, like, oh, everything will be fine, because it's not. It's just not. And
In the same regard, no gig is safe. It's like saying that like we shouldn't put festivals on because it might rain outside. It's risk prevention,
sure.
innit? Like
Yeah.
there's got to be some give and take. There's a risk this might happen, but without that risk, then X can't happen.
Yep.
So I get where you're coming from.
Sure.
I think we're maybe even saying like the same argument. Just
I'm
in
not
different
saying
words.
this is worthless.
No, not
at
at
all.
all.
I'm saying this is actually essential and it should be
Yeah,
done.
Yeah,
But
good.
I'm also saying that people shouldn't be looking at this and going, well, that's everything fine. Problem solved.
I don't even think that would be the case. I think what's probably more than likely is people who want things to get back to normal will accept it. They might not be happy with it, but they'll not kind of grudge it or moan about it or whatever. But the people who are against it will absolutely be up on their soapboxes.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people who are COVID skeptic, might be the best way to put it. Not entirely tinfoil hat wearing, but of different varieties. And I find it very interesting to look at their social media posts at times.
Yeah.
Not that I am perfect, nor have I got the right answers. So please don't take that as me being, again, soapboxy, being
Sure.
looking down on somebody being a wank. I just find it really interesting to see how other people think things through and like how they rationalise how they feel about things, and it's weird.
That's the real study here, is to just sit and observe the world around you rather than trying to play a part in the film, if you like.
I think I'm going to do a discursive essay for one of our spare episodes, one of the bonus episodes, sorry, and it'll just be called "Why Are People Wanks?"
I mean, that'll be an infinite length episode. So, right, we're gonna end that one there. So, sorry if you guys have got tickets booked for Maiden or Korn or any of the other numerous bands that are going to be in these.
Yep.
The Wolfgang Van Halen touring personnel test positive for COVID. Multiple shows with Guns N' Roses cancelled.
Damn.
Like, this is just going to happen time and time again. Oh, additional bit of news: Slipknot are leaving Roadrunner Records. That was, well, I did want to mention that, but then I also remember that who cares, because who cares?
Fair enough, aye. Fair enough. I was going to say they've been with Roadrunner for quite some time, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens next.
They've
But I'm
not
also
put
not that
out a
bothered.
record that's worth listening to in a very long time. So,
Fair.
Stone Sour Light. Anything else? Yes. Did you know? This show is brought to you by our friends over at Ormsby Guitars. We want to remind you guys that there is still time to get involved in the upcoming Run 16 guitars. Those include these incredible hypes available in 5 new colours. That Dragon Burst is absolutely stunning. You can also get your hands on one of the Metal X's, again available in a range of finishes. My personal pick has to be these headless Vs, absolutely outrageously cool. Imagine one of those in an 8-string, I absolutely love these. And finally, the Ando San signature model, available in 6, 7 and 8-string availability. Go and check them out at Ormsby's website right now. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at Rev Amplification, a one-stop shop for all of your tonal needs. Head on over to their website to check out their range of lunchbox amplifiers, both the D20 and G20, 20-watt amplifiers with built-in 2-notes torpedo technology so you can record direct into your computer. If that doesn't suit, you can also check out one of their highly popular G2, 3 and 4 pedals, giving you that trademark rev tone in a stomp box. Incredible tones, I use these myself. And finally, you may notice in the back of these videos a Rev Generator 120, an absolute masterclass in modern electric guitar tones. Check it out at their site now. So as always, a huge thanks to our friends and family over at Ormsby Guitars, Rev Amplification, and Vinny over at VPix. This show has been brought to you by them, and also to a lesser degree, Hybrid Picking Guitar Technique. Go and support me by picking up a copy of that. Support us.
Every copy you buy buys me a whiskey from Levi. You can't have any more reason to want to do it.
Well, I just noticed in my emails that I've just been emailed again by Jack and Victor for the Still Game whiskey, which I did want to pick up a bottle of.
Much is it?
One of 300 signed bottles. It's perfectly reasonably priced if memory serves me.
40 quid or something?
40 quid a bottle. I just think it was something like £12 for postage, which I wasn't on board with. But I think I might get a wee bottle of Jack and Victor.
See, the thing is, right, I can agree with you that 12 quid's a lot of money when you're only spending 40 for the product, but it's also a bottle of whiskey. So having it to you safely is important.
Sure. We keep mentioning like the idea of whiskey sponsorships. The company that Melissa is sponsored by, they've been kind of really dropping the ball recently. So without me saying anything, Melissa went above and beyond and has contacted every single whiskey distillery in Scotland on our behalf. Every single one. And she's heard back from a bunch of them. But most interestingly, I'm not going to mention the names until we sort an actual deal out. It turns out that the rep for one of them, she was looking into them, likes Party Cannon on Facebook. And then when she reached out to him and mentioned that, he said, I'm actually a subscriber of Levi's channel.
Away you go.
Yeah. So I'm not going to mention the distillery, but they have some cool looking stuff. And hopefully we can tell you more about them soon when they support the show. Because that's what we need to keep going, guys. Your love, kindness and support. So.
Liver cirrhosis, more like liver prorosis.
Fantastic. So we're going to go and record a bonus episode right now. Master of Puppets. Like I say, link to Buy Me a Coffee in the description. Go and check it out, and I hope you guys have a good time. Anything you'd like to add at the end there, Mike?
Big thanks once again for tuning in. Thanks, everyone. Sorry we have not had as much excitement and energy, and everyone's kind of been a bit last minute. I take the blame for that with the amount of shit that's going on in my personal life. So if MD wants to call me a dickhead in the chat, now is your perfect time to do so. I mean, you've got all the time in the world to leave it in the comments, but I'll take it. I might even be here live to say, thanks, mate, I am a dickhead. If you've got any fan mail, you know where we are, GsolesFanMail@gmail.com. You've got Buy Me a Coffee, the link's down below. You don't have to subscribe if you want to fire us a wee £1, £2, £5, whatever.
Every little helps.
Yeah, exactly. If we're kidding my Tesco here. Also, those are just as a total besides. If you want to, you can support us. If not, watching or listening is just as much support as we can want. That's as much as we can ask for.
Tell your friends. Tell your enemies.
Yes. Call us wankers. Say that we're actually bang on. Come on and be the contrarian if you want. Fuck, just come and insult us. It'll be a good laugh.
Yeah. Cool. Mike, until next time.
Bye, fuckers.